An army is exposed to more danger from bad water, wrote the 4th century Roman chronicler Vegetius, than from the enemy. For the common legionary on the march, the deadliest foe was often not a barbarian charge or a hail of arrows, but the invisible threat inside his own canteen. In this episode, we'll examine the field-tested toolkit of discipline and ingenuity that allowed the Roman soldier to secure the most critical supply in any campaign: clean, safe water. A Roman legion was a moving city. It comprised nearly 5,000 heavily equipped infantry, supported by cavalry, auxiliaries, craftsmen, pack animals, and a train of camp followers. This force was a marvel of organization, but it was also fragile. An army, as Vegetius noted, marches on its stomach, yet it survives on its water. The daily demand was immense. Water was needed not only for drinking, but for cooking the wheat ration, the frumentum, and for watering hundreds of mules and horses. Every march, every campsite, every decision about where to halt was, in part, a decision about water. The main threat here was not always a Gallic warrior or a Parthian archer. It was the unseen pathogen waiting in a stagnant pond or a contaminated village well. Military thinkers like Sextus Julius Frontinus, who oversaw Rome's aqueducts, understood that control of water was control of power. But on campaign, far from the engineered safety of the capital, the legion was exposed. A single bad water source could cripple a cohort faster than any ambush. Outbreaks of dysentery, typhoid, and other waterborne diseases were a constant, grinding danger that commanders feared. A sick soldier cannot march, dig the nightly trench, or stand steady in the shield wall. For the Roman army, then, water purification was not a luxury or an afterthought. It was a core element of logistics and a frontline act of defense. The legionaries' protection against this invisible enemy was not a single clever device. It was a 3-layered system of selection, purification,
daily routine,
and improvisation. Knowledge turned into daily routine. The first layer was proactive selection. A legion did not simply stumble toward the nearest stream. The vanguard was preceded by scouts, Aquatores, whose task was not only to locate the enemy, but also, in time, to specialize as Aquatores, water finders. Their mission: assess the safety of a water source before thousands of thirsty men arrived. Their methods, recorded by military and agricultural writers, relied on careful observation. Springs, fontes, were preferred, as the water had already been filtered through layers of earth and stone. Fast-moving, clear rivers were chosen over stagnant pools and marshes. Most importantly, as Vegetius advises, they were instructed to observe the color and health of the inhabitants who drink it. If the locals near a source looked sallow, weak, or chronically ill, the commander could forbid its use, no matter how clear the water appeared. This was practical. Hard-won experience turned into policy, a kind of battlefield epidemiology. By simply refusing bad sources, the legion avoided many outbreaks before they began. The second, and most famous, layer was chemical purification. The daily drink known as Posca. Posca was not a treat. It was a standard part of the ration, issued for a purpose. Its base was acetum, a low-grade sour wine, essentially vinegar. Soldiers carried this vinegar in their laguncula, or personal canteen. When they filled up with water, they mixed in a measure of vinegar. The exact proportion is lost to us, But the practice is attested by writers from Pliny the Elder to Suetonius. The how was simple. Pour and shake. The why was quietly sophisticated. Vinegar's primary active component, acetic acid, sharply lowers the pH of the water. This acidic environment is hostile to many waterborne bacteria that afflict armies, including those responsible for diarrheal diseases and typhoid-like illnesses. It would not sterilize every drop instantly, but it was far more than a flavoring. It was a stable, portable antimicrobial agent, the chemistry of survival, tucked into every kit. The faint hiss of vinegar mixing in a metal canteen was, in effect, the sound of preventative medicine. It turned a risky source of hydration into a safer, tangy drink that also cut through a soldier's thirst. When Emperor Hadrian, famed for his strictness, marched on foot with his troops, sources note that he drank, like the rest, only Posca. The third layer was emergency field filtration, the last resort when the only available water was visibly foul, muddy, or drawn from a marsh. Here the legionary had to improvise. We have no detailed manual for these situations, but necessity offers its own logic. One common technique was to let the earth do the filtering. A soldier could dig a shallow pit, a sip well, a short distance from the bank of a muddy river or pond. Then he waited. Water would slowly seep into the pit through the intervening soil and sand. This natural process trapped much of the sediment, so the water pooling in the pit emerged significantly clearer. When digging was impossible, a soldier could turn to his gear. A tightly woven piece of linen, perhaps his focale, the scarf protecting his neck from armor, could be stretched over the mouth of a canteen to act as a simple filter. In a pinch, a wad of wool, a bit of charcoal from the fire, or even a bundle of grass could be used to catch the worst of the silt. This filtration did not, by itself, make the water safe from disease, but it was a crucial first step. Vinegar is far more effective in relatively clear water. If it must fight through mud and debris, its usefulness is reduced. By filtering first and then adding Posca, the Roman soldier created a two-step system. Physical separation followed by chemical purification. Together, they could turn a suspect puddle into something drinkable. Seen from a distance of nearly 2,000 years, the Roman legionaries' routine around water is often dismissed as primitive. In reality, it was a remarkably coherent system of preventative medicine, enforced across an entire institution. The ordinary soldier did not know about bacteria or germ theory. He did not need to.
My legs.
What he had was something just as powerful. A set of rules shaped by generations of trial and error, and by the painful lessons of less cautious armies. That knowledge had been distilled into habit, into inspection, filtration, and Posca, and drilled into him as discipline. These practices were not isolated acts of cleverness. They were expressions of logistical foresight. They recognized a hard truth. The natural world may provide water, but it does not guarantee safety. The Roman method, a three-part system of selection, filtration, and acidification, was, in effect, a complete risk management plan carried out with the simplest of tools. Today, most of us live inside vast, invisible systems that deliver clean water straight to our taps. Historically speaking, that is a staggering luxury. The Legionaries toolkit reminds us that this security is not automatic. It is built. There is a quiet empowerment in that realization. A simple, accessible resource, like vinegar applied with consistency and understanding, can neutralize a mortal threat. The same logic underlies modern water treatment plants, backpacking filters, and public health guidelines. Different technology, same principle. Assess the risk, remove the sediment, kill the pathogen. It is, in essence, the timeless wisdom of taking responsibility for one's own survival. This channel is our digital archive, a place to preserve and share that kind of practical wisdom.
Become a patron.
If you find value in this knowledge and want to help keep it alive, please consider becoming a patron. And if you are a fellow problem solver who knows of other documented historical methods of water purification from any culture or era, share them in the comments below. Your contribution might be the next piece of hard-won knowledge we pass forward.